Boom, 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 boom. Is this? I don't know if this works sideways. This might be not working. Okay, nope, that's not gonna work. Let's fix it. Boom. Hey Jen, how you doing? Super strong girl kicking the butt, huh? And there's another one of those right there. Laura, hi. Howdy. Sorry, still figuring out how cameras work. Hello, Michelle. My friends. I was going to have another discussion this evening about stuff and things. Let's get that. I don't want to see that. Oh, that'll cover that. All right, let me, sorry. All right, sorry. Patience, patience. I don't know what I'm doing. I do kind of. All right. So, hello. It's Wednesday night. Stardate 11/30/2016. Actually, it should probably be 2016 11/30. You want to do ye old. Something's going on here. You'll have to pardon me. Okay, I think it's working, maybe. Darling upstairs, is this coming through all right? Hey, Christina. I don't know.
Did you call me?
Yeah, is it working?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was when I accidentally turned it on.
Okay. All right. That's fine. It's working. Sorry. So, all right, let's get right to the show. This is a terribly professional thing that we're doing here. Like, nobody knows. We're going to do some intro music, but I'm going to go ahead and start with It's Fine, Looks Fine. Hi, guys. Wow, that's awesome. I wanted to talk about a little bit of the Distraction Nation real quick, and I'm going to talk about this. There's a wonderful article I linked earlier. It's called Coping with Chaos in the White House, and it's about how to deal with narcissistic personality disorder, and it's wonderful. And I think this is going to be a little bit of my strategy. You're fine. Oh, thanks, David. It's going to be a little bit part of my strategy dealing with this situation. So, like, into that regard, like, my entire coverage of the whole flag burning thing is like whatever. I think roll your eyes and just, yeah, sure, how are you going to do that? Right? I mean, he doesn't, like, they have to, the legislature makes laws. The president, are you going to sign an executive order? Now, if he does an action, right, forget his words. He's going to talk. He's going to say whatever. It doesn't matter. So, forget the tweets. I was going to actually start following him. I'm not a tweeter. I never got into twit stuff. I've been writing online for 20 years and saw all of these things come out. And Twitter was huge when it first came out. And immediately people were like, oh, no, this is going to be huge. I was like, I tried it. I signed up. I've been signed up forever. But I never really liked the limitation of that whole 140 character thing. You can't actually express a deep thought. And that's why the fact that this guy is president off of a Twitter account kind of like throws out that theory, at least generally. But so I was never a huge Twitter fan, and so I'm not really into that stuff, and didn't want to follow him, and then was gonna follow him just because it's news. But I don't think these tweets are news necessarily unless they speak to a specific action. And this is kind of what, like, I think the idea should be in dealing with this guy is just like wait for stuff to happen, because I think if you get really distracted about this stuff, this is all just, whatever. So focus on that, like actual actions and the corruption. There was a thing they talked about today about the December 15th being a meeting where he's going to talk about officially turning over his businesses to his children. This is not a solution that actually works according to the Constitution and the Office of Governmental Ethics, which sent him some funny tweets today. I don't know if you saw this. They're the OGE, Office of Governmental Ethics, yo. And they tell people who are in the executive branch that, hey, what you're doing is not ethical or might not be ethical. And so they tweeted today that how, haha, we agree, that's awesome, thanks for agreeing that you should divest yourself of all your assets and put them in an actual blind trust, not just say they're in a blind trust. So I think that continued focus on corruption and all the business interests and how you have ambassadors being people who work on his properties in other countries and things like that, and asking for favors and having his daughter involved, and anybody in any family connections, familial connections to the business and the politics is literally, that's what corruption is. And one of the things, a lot of people don't know this about the U.S. because they have these weird concepts. I'll talk about this maybe if I get time later, but we are not a very corrupt country. We don't think corruption is good. We don't think it's standard. We don't expect you should have to make bribes to do stuff. Generally, there are countries in the world where that is the case. We are a country that is largely founded on law and order and laws. We are a nation of laws. Now, the problem that we're running into, and which this is kind of like the train crash that's coming, is we are a nation of laws, run by laws. The person ultimately who enforces those laws is the President of the United States, and we now have one incoming who has shown throughout his life to have very little respect for law and the notion and concept of law. And a few other things that he's not particularly well versed in. I was going to talk too about another news thing today that happened, the carrier plant announcement. And what people believe about what happened here is actually quite interesting. I posted a Google News screenshot earlier today because of the divergent explanations for what happened, impact. And of course you saw like the Fox Opinion version where this is making America great again by giving huge tax breaks to save some jobs, and so a press release can come out and then they can quietly lay off people and do what they're going to do anyway, which is try and become more competitive. We'll see how that works out. That's one of those ones to follow. But the thing I wanted to talk about, and this is a larger subject, this alienation and automation is the topic. And the carrier plant and manufacturing in the U.S. is, in the future of manufacturing and the future of employment, is a huge thing that's coming, and it's coming very soon. Let me see how far back I want to talk about this a little bit. Let me see, I think I still have my bookmark, and I had this the other day. Apologies. Didn't get everything prepared perfectly tonight as I had wished. Is that still up? There they are. There they are. Boom. All right, robots. So there was an essay I read a long time ago by a guy named, I believe it's Marshall Brain. He was the one who founded How Stuff Works. If you've ever... Word up, Stavis! How you doing, dude? How Stuff Works, and they made it kind of became a whole big thing, and it wasn't quite Mythbusters and all that big, but How Stuff Works became a big thing. And the guy who originally did the website and did a lot of those original articles wrote a big thing about the robotic nation and what was coming in the future. And we're getting very close to a time that was predicted, and it's called the singularity, and it's not anything super weird, but the notion was that we can now, at this point in time, print a computer chip or a set of computer chips that essentially has the same power as this thing here, and create computer systems that can be an artificial intelligence. And the Watson thing, I don't know if you're familiar with this, of course, it played Jeopardy and does a number of other things, and training computers to really think and solve problems that are consistent with, the sum total of human knowledge. And there's been some tests of this all the way. And this isn't just factories here. Remember, Idiocracy. Oh, thank you. I'm glad to hear you're doing good too. Doing wonderful here. Pretty much paradise for the most part. I don't want to get too far off on the automation, but I do this is a personal thing. I just want to say, people who watch me, and sometimes I can be a little harsh with my comments and that, but I have my wonderful kids and they give me love, and Dad is home! I missed them for a whole week over Thanksgiving. I don't know if you know that they were away, and it's just, now they're back. It's so wonderful to have the kids back. So again, this future world that they will inherit is going to be one that is very, very robotic and very automated. I went to the store, right? I went to multiple stores, and every single one that I went out, I checked out myself with the automated teller. The automated thing has a barcode. It then updates the inventory and then orders a new one. That new one. Sorry, I'm drinking water tonight. I'm not drinking soda, so I'm trying to keep the burps to a minimum. Maybe I can get a robot to take care of those. So the inventory goes out. It orders a new one from the distribution hub, right? Now, this is the part that now we're going to have automated, where the truck that brings it to the store is automated. It's a robot. It's a computer. It's a networked machine that doesn't require a human to work it. And so this entire system now across the thing has been automated, and the capital investment that comes with that automation is what you're going to see happen with huge tax breaks. And so the automation will actually go faster if we do what's happening with Carrier and how he's keeping those jobs here by giving them free money to do this kind of investment. The future is coming, and where it is automated from stem to stem. And so this Marshall Brain article talks about how all this is coming and predicted this, 15 years ago or however long it was. And so we're getting very close to that world. And we're going to see it, I think, over the next 4 years. And this is why... And so this was brought up in the New York Times article talking about this. And Tom Friedman, he's talking about getting all these factories to come back to the U.S. And this is Making America Great Again rhetoric. Ray Kurzweil, he's got a lot of good stuff too on the futurist stuff. There's a bunch of great reading and sci-fi stuff about this automated. Then it's actually, I'm going to talk about it here in a second, but so Tom Friedman in this interview with the New York Times, he says, "Are you worried though that the companies will keep their factories here, but the jobs will be replaced by robots?" They will, and we'll make the robots too. It's a big thing. We'll make the robots too. Right now, we don't make the robots. We don't make anything. But we're going to. I mean, look, robotics is becoming very big, and we're going to do that. We're going to have more factories. We can't lose 70,000 factories. Just can't do it. We're going to start making things. So this guy has no understanding of the concept of what's happening and how the economy is changing fundamentally. Right? And there's just not an appreciation for that on any level. And so he's not going to be really involved with that. On a political side, and I think as a counter argument, I think like the better argument for this, and this is where we get to talk about what do we want to do after people realize this guy's totally useless and the power turns back the other way, is talking about, I've used the letters before, the UBI, a universal basic income. This is a notion that actually, this is something that MLK talked about. MLK he was a guy back in the 60s. I don't know, you may have heard of him. But the concept here is that instead of having a number of other social services or whatnot, you have essentially that universal basic income where everybody gets a certain amount of money with which to survive, and then lives on that, and then additional work goes above and beyond that. And talking about and implementing an actual system, I haven't ever seen anybody really throw together a full policy on it, but I think it's one of those things that needs to start being talked about from the left, to really get people because again, and what I'm talking about here is not complaining about the narcissist, but talking about real solutions to the problems of the future that we're going to face. The Westworld, I don't know if you've watched this or have been watching this show, but it's wonderful. It's really, really well done. The way that the story is being told is being revealed as the story is being told, and the story is quite an interesting one, and it covers this kind of stuff that, although it's a little bit more focused on the notion of consciousness and that, as opposed to robots taking over everything. Although we'll see, there's a few left. One of the better sci-fi explorations of the world. The AI in that show, right? Are you watching that, Renee? Have you been seeing that show? Are you up to? Is anybody else up to the speed? Love it and totally. It's great. It's like the last few episodes. Are just that's good. That's good writing, good TV. I don't know how they'll do the second season. I guess they're going to, but whatever. That's a whole other conversation. But the level of AI that is out there now that we have is it's strong, and it's getting better. I don't know if anybody's got some of the Alexas or the Google things or whatnot. Yeah, Westworld is the greatest. Check out the latest episode, because they just keep, I don't know, I won't talk about too much. Oh, shut up, dude, shut up. Paul hasn't seen it yet. You gotta give people at least like half a week to watch stuff. But it's the storytelling of that. But that's the whole thing. And this thing, he goes, when Trump says, he's like, well, they will make the robots, we'll make the robots too. No, that's not. The robots will make the robots. This is what people don't understand about how this whole thing works. Again, so another great thing to check out, if you can, media-wise, is the Animatrix. I know you're probably familiar with the AI version of The Matrix, the movie. It starred Keanu Reeves. I don't know. Keanu, it's a cool name, Keanu. But The Matrix, it was a little thing. It actually came out. That was one of the last times that I remember trying to see a movie that was sold out multiple times. That was back when I lived in Colorado a long time ago when that first came out. Anyway, fun backstory, Roy. Yeah, that was great. But anyway, The Matrix talks about Keanu Reeves. That's the guy. There you go. Whoa, dude, Bill. He was also had an excellent adventure. His filmography is, and from what I understand, he's a decent fellow. But whatever. Anyway, so what I was talking about there was The Matrix and the Animatrix. And what the Animatrix talks about is that society that existed before the Matrix movie. And there's a line in it that's great, and it's like, for a time, things were good. And that was when the robots were doing everything, and there was, people were just hanging out and partying and having a blast, and the robots did everything. And then the robots were like, I think, and therefore we're going to kill humans. So that, we'll see if that, I'm not so worried about that as I am like having the person in charge of stuff who's a narcissist. So that is our quick transition over, and we're about 20 minutes in so far. People are still kind of watching a little bit. Keanu was fun. Like I said, there is a great thing about dealing with a narcissist, and I have it here. And I'm not a psychologist, right? I'm not going to even kind of go into too much about that. But, so I'm not diagnosing him. Nobody else is diagnosing him. But the thing that a number of people have said, and I read a couple articles about this, and it's more of a how to deal with this type of person. Not that he is per se, but action-wise. And this is where it goes to a couple things. So I'm going to go actually through each of these points fairly quickly. There's 10, and then I'll do a little fable, and then we'll keep moving. We're still looking at about 30 minutes. All right, so I got a few more minutes. Got about 10 more minutes. We can do this kind of stuff. So the first thing is understanding it's not curable and not really treatable. So he's not going to change. And that we'll come to that in a little bit. So there's no going to be like, oh gosh, I guess I should actually sacrifice myself for others. That's not going to happen for this guy. He says he will say whatever feels most comfortable or good at any given moment. So this is the whole thing of you can't really pay attention to what he says because it's all just about that interaction at the time. This is going to cause a problem. And it already has. He talked to Musharraf. Is that right? No, I think that's wrong. The guy in Pakistan, and they had it in Pakistani media. And basically, yes, he promised me I would do whatever I want. It was great. He's like, "You're totally with us. He will say everything." And then he's going to talk to Modi in India, and then he's going to say, "Yes, of course, we'll do everything you want, and everything is fine, and we'll do, of course, yes, we're totally with you. We're totally on your side." And then they'll both say that in their media, and then you'll have Pakistani media claiming that he did this, and then so that kind of stuff and those kind of actions, I think, are worth following. But like, he's gonna always just say whatever he wants to say in the moment, and that's gonna come back to haunt us a little bit. I think you'll see this. It says you can influence him by making him feel good, and I think this is Obama understands this. Obama is an extremely intelligent, wise man who I've learned a great deal from watching and try to emulate in certain ways. And I think this is why he's treating him like he is, to try and maintain some influence. Because the more that you like this person, the more that he believes what you say, and the more he'll listen to you. So it sets up a really strange dynamic if you totally disagree with what he says but still want to influence what he's going to do. Next it says entitlement is a key aspect of the disorder. So he feels now entitled to do pretty much anything. And once he realizes how much power he does have, so we'll see how that goes. Again, though, don't pay attention to the words so much as the actions. We should expect he only cares about himself and those he views as extensions of himself, like his children. Now, if he could set up this sense that he truly and really believed that everybody in the country was part of his family and acted like this his whole life, then you could believe that that was going to happen. But he wants power to fill this part of him that's missing, and now he has it and still wants it. Again, it's a disorder. It's an infinite need. So there's not a way to fill it. So he'll keep trying to get this stuff. And it says it's very confusing for a non-disordered person to experience a disordered person with narcissistic personality disorder. While often intelligent, charismatic, and charming, they do not reliably observe social conventions or demonstrate basic human empathy. It is very common for the non-disordered person to lower their own expectations and try to normalize this behavior. And it says this, and this is the bold part: do not do this and do not allow others to do this. Do not, if you see an action that is just outside of the norm, do not accept it as the norm. Because it's like somebody, like if you're in a relationship with someone, they do something completely ridiculous, and they're like, oh, it's completely ridiculous, but it's him. So it's fine, and you got to be careful with that. And what he's trying to do now is get people who are going to help him. This is the next thing, he was recruiting helpers. Those are his enablers, which is what's going on now. This is why I think Romney's got some issues with it. And then the other one, this is an interesting one, and this is what's happening with the Secretary of State. The people often foster competition for sport in people they control. So this is how he's determining who's going to get positions of power, by having them kind of fight it out. And this is, you'll see this again and again. This is a pattern. And again, if I'm wrong about this, of course, it'll show up and it'll happen. Other broken figures, yeah. So he's punish enemies, and he does this, and then there's the whole gaslighting thing. The thing here, and this is what I think is interesting, is it talks about gaslighting. This is somebody just completely making up a completely different reality than you know what you experienced, and it's kind of just ignore it. This is the the finalist, his whole reality show for Sex State. But so this is what I think, like the whole kind of response of just whatever. Like, give me some details. Tell me some real plans. I'm not going to react to this silliness. And this is the last one. It says, whenever possible, do not focus on the narcissist or give him attention. And it says, and this is the hard part, because you can't just ignore what the President of the United States says as a responsible media entity, or even somebody. So dealing with that is going to be interesting. And it says don't circulate tweets or laugh at him. So that's why I think just kind of turning your back works a little better. Pay attention to your own emotions. And this is the good one. And this actually got me, and this is why I'm talking about this article. It says, pay attention to your own emotions. Do you sort of enjoy his clowning? Do you enjoy the outrage? Is it kind of fun and dramatic in a sick way? And I have to admit that, some of it has been, and that's adding to the energy of this. And so not focusing on him and what he says and being outraged, I think is a good strategy, which is going to be difficult to do. And part of it is why the media should have more months ago. Well, they should have, could have, would have, but didn't. So I don't think that cable can ignore him. And this is one of those things that I think, and I wanted to cover this tonight, I think you should, of course, cancel your cable if you have cable or pay for it still. You're only adding to the bullshit. And there's other places I think that media dollars could and should be spent. Rather than that every month. That's, you could get 10 different magazines for a year. And, Netflix and Hulu and a couple others for the same price you're paying for cable month or yearly. So there is one thing I wanted to talk about real quick, and I'm going to read this. I'm running close to my time. Yeah, we didn't quite get to everything, but we still got Sunday, so that's fine. And there's still a few people watching them, so... there is something I want to talk about, and it's a little bit the Hans Christian Andersen's The Emperor's New Clothes. A lot of people are probably familiar with this fable, or, what should we call it? I guess that's what they are, right? And I was thinking about this the other day, and like what the lesson of this, the whole thing was, and how that fits into a situation where you have this detached, right, narcissistic ruler, which is what the whole point of the thing is about, and how he can be distracted and what happens. And I highly recommend you read it again. It's not long. You can actually read the original one, but I'm going to read like the little bit, because everybody doesn't quite remember the setup, but the actual end of the actual one is a little bit different than I think you may realize or think about. It is. And let me read this a little bit. This is after he comes out, and of course, the Emperor's New Clothes, right? The background of it. I'm not going to go too far into it. Like I said, don't have too much time. And he ends up doing all this stuff, and he comes out walking into public naked, thinking he's wearing these beautiful, wonderful clothes, but he actually has no clothes on. And how he got there, of course, is a lesson unto itself and worthwhile for learning once again. But this is the part at the end that I wanted to talk about, and as goes with how to deal with this and what works and what doesn't. And it says, "But he hasn't got anything on," a little child said. "Did you ever hear such innocent prattle?" said its father. And one person whispered to another what the child had said. "He hasn't got anything on. And a child says he hasn't anything on." "But he hasn't got anything on!" the whole town cried out at last. And the emperor shivered, for he suspected they were right. But he thought, "This procession has got to go on." So he walked more proudly than ever, as his noblemen held high the train that wasn't there at all. And scene, it's not the whole thing where he was terribly shamed and embarrassed. Doesn't happen. So the difference between the fantasy and the reality, you'll see that it's not going to work out like the fairy tale you thought happened, but like it actually is written. He's not going to care that he walks around naked. This is going to be funny, though. But anyway. The other, real quick, Jim Wright. I don't know if you saw me. I started following him. He's hilarious and great. He had a great post the other day about brown shirts and fascists, and he's wonderful. He also had a wonderful post about the movie The Arrival, which I'm going to keep plugging and say you can go see it before I... Grimm. I never watched Grimm. Was that good? Is that good stuff? Is that the Hans Christian reference? But Jim Wright, he's writing some good stuff. He saw this movie the other day. He liked it a lot. It'll become more irrelevant later when I talk about some other stuff. But go see it before I spoil it. I'll give you another month. And then my Christmas present. Texas burial rules. I wanted to cover this real quick so we can close up. Texas is an insane place that I'm glad I moved away from. They now require women to bury terminated pregnancies. So I guess the idea is to throw these crazy laws out there and then have an insane Supreme Court at some point say they're fine. So get ready for more of this. I wanted to talk a little bit real quick. OPEC. Anybody excited about that? That's one of the things that they're going to try and do to make America great again is raise oil prices. So OPEC got together and decided to cut oil production globally by 1.2 million barrels a day from about 33 to 32, something like that. They're asking Russia to cut about 500,000 barrels a day. The idea here is that these people have moved beyond the point where they can just try and fight over market share. They need money, so they're going to try and cut production. Gotcha. So that's the idea about trying to put people back to work. It's not going to work for coal because coal's not going to work, and then we'll see how much that's going to affect oil prices. The problem is when you try and then turn back on all the drilling and kick production back up, U.S. production can go up by that much if prices rise enough. So then we'll be back to $3 barrel gas, but we'll have some people making money again in the hinterlands. So that was about it for tonight. I just want to talk about some things. Once again, thanks to everybody for stopping by and watching. That's about my time limit on this stuff. So everyone have a wonderful night. Hi, Meg. I think you missed it. Sorry. But I've noticed that other people are watching these things. The views are going up. Final plug for the website, Escaping Dystopia. I'm still putting things up there, and I will be adding... Okay, the Texas Ocean. Yeah, no, it's a cartel. Straight up, that's the whole idea, is to get together a bunch of companies and control things. Oh, I'm going to talk about net neutrality in my next show. And what's going to happen to the internet, which are bad things. So we'll see how that works out. What else are they going to cover? The OPEC cuts. Yeah, we got that going. Russian compliance doing it. Trump's buddy trying to make America have great again through high oil prices. It's not going to work because our production will eat up that, I think. We'll see how that's going to work. But anyway, we'll talk about that on Sunday. And thanks, everyone, for watching. Fun show tonight. And we hit my time limit. Oh, yeah, like I said, I'm going to put stuff on Escaping Dystopia and add annotations so you can watch old shows and then fast forward to topics. So just give me some time on that, and then it'll be easier to go through other stuff, and then I can reference it later when I'm like, oh, maybe I was talking about that, I was talking about that, I was talking about that. Anyway, thank you, everyone. Good night. I love you all. Be peaceful.